So we thought it would be a fun video. Andrew and I, our daughter is about 2.5 months old now, and we were talking about, I don't know, we were just talking about, reminiscing about the pregnancy, and Andrew's asking me, was there anything that you wish you had known prior to getting pregnant? Anything that surprised you? Looking back, there weren't really things that I'm like, oh, I wish somebody would have told me this, or I wish somebody would have told me that. There wasn't really much that came as a surprise, in all honesty. I thought it was more fun to kind of brainstorm about what were some of the cool things or positive things about being pregnant, and what were some of the more annoying things. So the good things about being pregnant, the cool, good things about being pregnant, I feel like one of the obligatory answers, of course, is the fact that, you get your baby when you're all done with it. So, you have your baby when all is said and done. So that's obviously a positive thing. We have our daughter here after years of musing what our child would look like, and then months of, her being right there but not knowing what she would be like until she came out. So, obviously that's a positive thing. That's probably the most positive thing about being pregnant is having the baby at the end. Not having the baby. Being with the baby. Having the baby is a different story. Another cool thing about being pregnant, I thought, is that, as a woman, your whole life, it's hard to not worry about what you look like. One thing that was really cool was that it was pretty liberating to not really worry about what you look like. Like, once you start to really show, and somebody who doesn't know you knows that you're pregnant, that's when you're like super pregnant. Is when someone you don't know can look at you and be like, hey, what do you do? And not like, damn, that girl just let herself go a little bit. So it's pretty liberating to just kind of, I don't really have to watch what I eat. I walked around in like what we call in our household happy clothes all the time because my regular clothes didn't quite fit. So it's kind of cool to let go of that constant worry and that constant fear. It was definitely a new feeling to not have to worry about that facet. Another thing is that it made me love my husband more than I even thought was possible. Like, I loved him a lot to begin with, but going through pregnancy and now having her here, I didn't realize that I could love him more than I did, but I totally do. And it just makes my heart so full. That's, I think, one of the pros of pregnancy. You're with the person that you love, and you don't think you're going to be anymore, and then your little baby comes along and you do it. It's pretty cool. The last thing I have on here on the good things list, I know there's more good things about being pregnant, and I probably sound like D-bag for only listing like a handful of things, but such is life. The last thing I have on my list is, and it's much more shallow than the last one or two, and it's pretty cool that people will do stuff for you while you're pregnant, because I remember being at work one time, and I was visibly pregnant, and I was wearing my ID. I don't know what I was doing. I had taken my ID out of this little holster thing, and I just dropped it on the floor, and without thinking, I bent down to get it, or I crouched down to get it. Somebody yelled at me because they were like, what are you doing? You are pregnant. You're not supposed to do that. Let me get that for you. We moved while I was very pregnant. I was probably like 6 or 7 months pregnant, and we moved. I wasn't allowed to do anything because I can't lift anything, or I couldn't lift anything. Felt kind of bad, but it's also kind of cool that it's like, I'm not broken. I'm not, like, everything still works, but people talk to you like you're broken. Are you crazy? Sit down. Don't do that. I mean, I guess it was pretty cool to not have to do certain things because people are just like, Jesus, Christmas, you got a baby and you sit down. No matter how many annoying things I list, it's all outnumbered by my baby because I love her. But my annoying thing stuff probably does, at least in numbers, outnumber my good things list. So the first thing I have on my annoying things list, you get the same questions and comments like a billion times a day, all the time. And no one means to annoy you by asking them, most likely. But when you're already tired, you're already kind of on edge because hormones, you know, it can kind of get on your nerves every so often when you've been asked for the, you know, 700th time in a day. I think the questions that I got the most was, how are you feeling? Do you have any cravings? Is it a boy or a girl? And what's their name? I think those are the 4 questions that I got most often. And at one point I was just so over it that I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I need to go somewhere and make up just business cards. And all the business card is gonna say on it is pretty good, can't complain. Nothing really, I don't know, maybe Rice Krispie treats. It's a girl. And number 4, we're not sharing that right now because I don't wanna hear your opinion on my baby's name. Take my business card and leave me alone, I wanna sleep. So the next thing that is so annoying, and I don't know why we do it to each other. It's a thing that women do to other women, and I don't get it. Like new mom hazing, and I don't get it. But what I mean by new mom hazing is that whenever you talk to another woman who already has children or a child, they've already been through it, they seem to love telling you horror stories of either their own horror stories of somebody they know, something they read on the internet. I heard of one woman who they had their baby, they started hemorrhaging, they had to go to the ICU, give blood transfusions. Somebody, I remember talking to somebody at one point, they like cornered me and they were like, you know what? You're gonna poop on the table in front of everybody. You are not the first person to reveal that to the world. That's like everybody's favorite, no one else is gonna tell you this but me. That's like everybody's favorite fact to tell a pregnant woman. And I don't get it because it's very common knowledge. By the way, I don't think it happens. So I don't know if it's like people get some sick, like, pleasure out of scaring people. When you tell me a horror story about childbirth or pregnancy, it's really mean because you're holding me like prisoner or like hostage because no getting out of this now. I'm pretty far into this thing, no turning back. So if you tell me some horrific story about childbirth, I'm gonna experience it pretty much regardless. So it's actually really mean to corner a first-time pregnant woman and tell her some kind of childbirth horror story as some kind of sick hazing ritual. It's just really mean and never appreciated. Nothing you're gonna tell me is gonna prepare me because everybody's different. Everybody's story is different. I don't want to hear your garbage that you want to tell me. Just keep it to yourself unless I specifically ask for it. This next one, I feel like it has a couple of asterisks, caveats if you will. What I'm gonna say in no way is like a passive-aggressive attack on my husband because he was amazing. It's kind of annoying how it seems like everything changes for the pregnant person, but nothing changes for the spouse. It gets kind of annoying. It's like we both made this conscious decision. Well, you know, as long as you're making a decision to have a baby, it's not something you planned out, and that's a different story. It's not like we don't realize that the whole pregnancy and labor and delivery, it's a pretty female-intensive process. We're completely aware of that going into it, but it doesn't make it any less annoying. But it's like everything changes, you know, even from day one. It's like I gotta change up my diet. It might be advised that I eat certain things that I didn't before. I don't eat things that I have before. I gotta watch my caffeine intake. I can't have any alcohol. I can't have a casual drink. You know, after a long week of work, I get home on a Friday night and I want to have a drink and I fucking can't. And, you know, of course, labor and delivery. I got a lot of things that are changing up for me that I gotta worry about. But what changes for him? I think the biggest thing that changes is that you gotta deal with the basket case that I just described. You gotta live in the same house as that hot mess of a person that I just described. And I also had it pretty easy. There are a lot of things that I didn't experience that a lot of women do. And I got really lucky. There's other women that have a lot of morning sickness. There's some women that get gestational diabetes. The list is endless. One thing, it's not really something that I wish I knew before, but it's one thing that I can wholeheartedly admit that I was wrong about. not so much in the beginning, but towards the end in the 3rd trimester, like the later part of 3rd trimester, you know, you go in for your weekly checks, and the doctors and nurses will tell you, or they told me over and over and over again about labor and contractions. And they would tell you over and over and over again, oh, well, you'll know when it's real. And they told me over and over and over again, oh, you'll know they're real when you can't walk and you can't talk your way through them. So, like, the day came, the day that, you know, my daughter was born, and I woke up real early that morning, and I started having what I thought felt like contractions. And, you know, they were pretty regular. They weren't, you know, they weren't just sporadic. And I was like, oh, this might be the real deal. You know, they were getting increasingly stronger throughout the day. They started off pretty mild, and they got stronger and stronger throughout the day. And at one point, I remember sitting on the couch, and they were like, on a scale from like 0 to 10, they were probably like a 4-ish. At one point, we went to the hospital. They sent us home because I wasn't quite ready yet. And again, the nurse told me, hey, listen, you'll know they're real when you can't walk or talk through them. And I was like, Jesus, I know, everyone keeps telling me that, but I mean, how bad can they really get? But later that night, the nurse had suggested that maybe, you know, take a bath, maybe relax, maybe it'll help you with the pain. And at first, it felt really nice, like it almost felt like a break. And it did not last long because they came back with a vengeance. And I would say at that point when I had taken that bath, they probably came back and they were probably a 9 out of 10 at that point. My husband, you know, the saint that he was and is, he was like, hey, honey, I've been watching the clock, and I think we might want to consider going back to the hospital. Once I finally had dragged myself, you know, out of the bath and got myself all dressed and ready to go, I was walking down the hall of our house going towards the garage. I had not yet experienced one standing. I had been sitting every time I'd had one. So as I'm walking down the hallway, one of them hit me, and it was like they were just a full body experience, and it hit me to the point where I didn't know what to do with my body. And I don't know if it was just instinct or confusion or desperation, I don't know. I just kind of sank down to the floor. It was in that moment, and my husband walked by and he was like, yep, it's time to go to the hospital. But it was in that moment that I was like, okay, yeah, I guess these people know what they're talking about. It's like they've done it before or something, I don't know. So yeah, would I do it again? Probably not. Maybe in about a year or two I should go back and watch this video and heed my own words if I ever get that baby itch again that I hear people talk about. Overall, it was a cool experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I was very lucky. I know that a lot of people have different experiences. I'm sure there were some people out there that they'd be like, hell yeah, me too, with some of those things. There are probably some other people that are like, no, that's not true. And isn't that the wonderful thing that we can all experience things so differently? But, you know, if you like this, or if you know somebody that would like it, you know, give us a thumbs up, maybe share the video with them, subscribe and stuff. And Andrew and I want to make some more fun videos like this, where we just kind of maybe share our experiences. And so keep an eye out. You know, we plan to make some more fun videos, and we hope you like them too.